Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at the Lagavulin Jazz Fest 2020, the 22-year-old. Dustin, small affair this time, only 2,004 bottles released. This Lagavulin 22-year-old for the 2020 Jazz Festival is from American and European oak, top-dressed by active casks, some of them wine-seasoned.
That is the most words to say. We're not really telling you what's in our bottle.
No, it's talking in a circle.
Yeah.
That's absolutely for sure. Talking in a circle.
We used a lot of different casks that may or may not have had wine for some of them, but not all. Maybe sometimes Tuesdays excluded. European oak maybe, and some American oak. We're not really sure. We just grabbed a bunch of casks.
Threw them together. Aged them for at least 22 years. I'm sorry, 2004 total bottles available. This is bottle 239.
That's one of the lowest bottle counts I think we've done. Maybe, was that 21 year that you had? Was that in the 1600 range?
Actually, I think it was the same thing. He's talking about the 19 Jazz, the 21-year-old. I think that was like 2004. I think both releases were right around that 2000 mark.
Yeah, that's a low release because, I mean, you think about this year, they just put out a 26-year-old for, like, they put out like 7,000 bottles almost.
Yeah, we'll get into that, have a conversation about that one of these days. So, Dustin, this particular Lagavulin, ABV-wise, is 52.6% ABV. I've had this for a while. I've had it open, bought a couple bottles initially. Low. Yeah, I worked it down a little over halfway. Goofy green label. Reminds me of the old Distillers Edition when they went to the green label.
It honestly just looks like if they left it out in the store too long and it's kind of faded.
Yeah, sun bleached. Oh, let me put the bottle
a little bit
back.
of, little dust got on there. But no, that's a new clean label.
All right, so we were disappointed with the 21. We've been obviously impressed with some Lagavulins, not as impressed with others. 22 year we've had a few times now. I think I'm ready to properly articulate what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, we've had this. I feel like we've had this so many times. It's almost kind of crazy we haven't reviewed it, but
yeah, we keep meaning to. All right, so on this one on the nose, there is some nice sherry, nice Lagavulin sherry notes on this one. It's pretty dark, natural color, I believe, for a special edition Lagavulin. So it's got some nice color. It's got some nice sherry. It's not as rich as when I first opened the bottle. It's kind of subdued a bit. It's calmed.
52. It's going to fade a little bit with time open.
But it's kind of a juicy. When I think of the fruits on the nose on this particular one, it's a little juicier than what I would typically think fruits. Some light pear, maybe like an apricot covered in chocolate.
When I get old whiskey with old sherry, I always get Dimetapp notes. That great medicine I had as a kid, right here. It's a little bit medicinal, a little bit grapey, very, very austere, and the oak coming through. I mean, it's not I'm not getting the usual Lagavulin punch of sweet malt. Smoke is almost non-existent here.
Smoke is very, very light on this one.
Yeah, this is a very straightforward, complex, old-smelling Lagavulin, if that makes sense.
Feels maybe just from other Lagavulin, say 21s that we've had, a tad tired comparatively. The sherry cask maturation, why similar, is not as drastic. So lighter sherry, but still a decent wall of the sherry. But just the smoke factor, it being so low on this particular one, it makes it very approachable. But there's something as far as like a Lagavulin bite that's not there. It's not as meaty smelling as the other.
There's two things I kind of come away from this one. One, you could tell me this is older than 22 years old.
I'm poor Tadmore.
And two, on top of being older than 22 years old, I would say that they obviously needed those fresh, active casks, whatever they're calling them, probably because they had some pretty boring whiskey when they first blended it.
Yeah, no, it's just I hate to use the word boring initially.
Again, that's not what they gave us here. They gave us a whiskey that they did a little extra finishing to kind of bring a little oomph to it. But my guess is
it wasn't a short pour.
Yeah, nice pour here.
Yeah, even with a heavier pour.
But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot here. But what's here is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cinnamon, there's some spice. Again, all very, very light, almost like a white cinnamon. There's a tad bit of carnitas in the background.
Hint of nuttiness in there as well. Just maybe like an almond.
Yeah, almond shell.
Yeah, I mean, very light. Hint.
Very light nut. Yeah, I mean, from the nose, you would never get cask strength 52. Was it 0.9?
No,
52.6. Forgive me.
A little bit of cookie. Like sugar cookie, just a hint.
Yeah, there's something sweet there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a white bread, even like a overly sweet white bread.
All right, I'm takes it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, again, Mike, I think well matured, well aged, but nothing blowing you away. But at the same time, I'm very I'm excited and I'm encouraged by the nose because I think there is something really nice going on here.
Well, palate way more aggressive. Incredibly spicy, especially on the finish. Wow, ton of spice on the finish. Comes off mild smoke, smokier than came on the nose. The smoke on the palate's right there. I'm telling you, as soon as you swallow, a lot of spice, cinnamon, pepper, almost like a tequila note almost on that. Whew. And then kind of settles in as it settles down. Nice sherry juiciness, peach, apricot, something a little lighter as far as a fruit. You got peach or apricot, something like that. Something not.
I'm with you right there.
Wow. I mean, it's got a decent linger to it. I mean, it comes off way more impressive on the palate than it did on the nose.
Yeah, bigger, bolder, very aggressive, assertive Lagavulin. You're talking about spices, maybe even a little bit like cardamom or something like that. Just kind of peppered in there. A lot of stuff. It's cooking spices, baking spices, but even some kind of like holiday type stuff even got in there just a little bit. Very complex, very interesting. Big bite, a lot of upfront. It's smokier than I think you said. Even for me, I get.
It keeps getting smokier.
Like I'm still getting smoke here on the finish. I'm not getting the traditional Lagavulin sweetness in the malt here as much as I would have expected on the nose.
No.
As much as I'm used to it from a Lagavulin.
No, too much spice for that.
Yeah, it's overpowering. It's like up front, there's a little bit of sweetness, and then just
hits
spice, and then tons of smoke.
Yeah, I mean, again, the smoke just keeps building.
Yeah, and now I'm much more down to 22 years old.
Oh yeah, yeah. This comes off far younger on the palate than it does.
Yeah,
on
the nose. I mean, you could have told me, hey, this is like 30-year-old whiskey, buddy.
Yeah, no, it came off subtle yet rich. I would say in full.
Yeah, well, it has a good oak presence to it, where you're thinking, this is casks that it's been sitting in oak for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what, with a little bit of water, the oak note is definitely taking a step up, maybe two.
Sweetness has come up.
Yeah, I was saying, and oddly too, along with that oak note, which I associate with bitter, a lot of times, along with that came up sweetness.
I'm getting a lot more of the Lagavulin malt than the distillate character coming through here now, much more so than before.
Like Lagavulin loaf with almost a hint of vanilla on top.
Yeah, and we had this right when
weird
you bought this, and you bought the 21-year-old Fisheel.
Jazz.
Jazz, so it was 21 Jazz and 22 Jazz?
This is the 20 Jazz. The 21-year-old bourbon only in the wooden box was the 2019 Jazz, I believe.
Okay, so we had those two. You bought those about the same time. So we had them side by side. I think maybe the first time we had them the same day. This one right away jumped out as the better of the two for me by
Agreed.
Pretty noticeable amount.
Yeah, 3-4 points.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, they were kind of going older with all of these Jazz releases for a while. Like they were 18s, and there's a couple ones that were younger, but it seemed like 18, 19, 20, they were all having good age. But then, as you know, for 21, they went back to a 13-year-old, which we got our hands on. So we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, this is kind of the end of those older Lagavulins that were released for Jazz, because that's usually not the case with Jazz.
Yeah, and this is probably the third oldest Lagavulin we've brought people.
Yeah, I know.
25, 24, and this is probably next.
Yeah, 30 or 37 continue to elude me. So, and
the 26 hasn't
it made
sense to itself to buy yet.
No, don't underestimate me.
Oh, I know eventually the FOMO will win.
Don't underestimate my skeptical decision making, skeptical financial purchases at times. All right. So getting back to this, much more enjoyable nose with some water. Much more enjoyable. It brought it to life. It really did. So it was very closed off, even though we worked the bottle down over the course of 10 months or so down to here. Lagavulin takes a long time to uncoil, especially cask strength ones, especially older ones. It's got to sit there for a while. But this one here, once you put a few drops of water in, definitely snaps to life. Did it do anything as far as changing the palate?
Not much. I think the sherry got a little more subtle. Spice is still there. Nice meatiness, nice, more smoky than meaty on this one. I think some of the Lagavulins tend to be meatier. This is really smoke and spice. Nice little upfront sweetness, but it's more bourbon cask-esque than it is sherry casks up front to me now. I
agree. I mean, I would love to know what cask they use for the active cask, because I think that's where we're getting a lot of the spice. My guess would be French oak. I don't know how much French oak.
Yeah, they said European oak was involved here, so I believe them. Probably French oak, and I'm thinking could have even been some virgin oak casks that got used in here.
I don't know. But it's snappy for sure. that spice is assertive.
Probably the spiciest Lagavulin I can remember offhand.
Yeah, I've had some spicy Jazz Fest. They were more salty than spicy. Well, yeah, salt's a spice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But we've talked a lot about like salty sea breeze and like carnitas and stuff like that. This one is not like we're at a Hawaiian party eating carnitas,
No,
smoked pig.
This is that time that you put, crushed red pepper or pepper, and someone like unloosened the cap, and it's all poured on your, your pizza or hamburger or whatever it was. You're like, I got to make the best of it. You know what I mean? It's that level of spice. All right. So anyway,
Good nose though, man. I really
with water, actually, the nose probably jumped 4 points for me, easy. With water and without water, it's rare the jump is that significant.
see. I liked it both ways. I like that older, refined, almost a little closed off nose initially, and I'm loving that it's just popping out now.
Yeah, it does come off younger.
Yeah, but now it's vibrant, whereas before it was like, okay, this one probably should have been bottled 2 years ago. This one now is like, you guys could have gone another year.
Yeah, oh yes, for sure. All right, so as far as the whiskey score, where are we at, my friend?
I got two numbers in my head here, Mike, but I think I'm going to go with 89.
Yeah, I've always been between an 88 and an 89 on this whiskey every time I've had it. Today, I'm going to say it's an 88. I haven't drank in a while. It's rare that you would rate a Lagavulin higher than me. There are some things I like about it, but I think the spice, why different, is out of balance big time.
From a pure technical scoring perspective, I think you're right. And that's why, because I was debating a 90 at first, because I really enjoy the nose that it's got here. And I love the finish, the length.
It's rich.
All that. But I had to go 89 because I think you're right. It's not a balanced whiskey. I think that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, and, sometimes I like the disjointed, if it's heavily shared or if it works. Don't let me turn you off in saying that, if you like heavy spice and a ton of smoke, that might be your thing more compared to something that I'm partial to.
Yeah.
And in which case, you might rate it even higher than a 90.
I could say my enjoyment factor on this is closer to a 90 than an 89. But
for sure.
I think just technically it's got a few things that are...
Got a couple
90's a big score, man.
It is. But this is a big price bottle. This is a $700 bottle. This is not.
And that's
a
the
cheap
real
whiskey.
problem. And of course, now mind you, what was actual retail on this thing? Like if you bought it at
the place, I thought the 21 and the 22 were the 19 and 2020 Jazz release, respectively. I thought those were around 500 pounds, $500, 500 pounds. So I'm sure I paid some type of secondary. Maybe I paid 20% too high, but I think these were, even if you got them at the distillery, being there's only 2,004 bottles, if you could even make it there, you were probably, spending at least $500.
I can't even imagine somebody would sell this for only a 20% markup, though, because it's
such a rare bottle.
Well, on top of that, if you just think about normal retail, 35% is what most stores want to get on liquor because that's just what you don't make profit if you don't.
I may be wrong. I am guessing somewhat based on what I heard. People who were at the event for 19 and talked about the 21-year-old. They said, I believe that was the number they gave me was 500. It could have been pounds. It could have been U.S. dollars. They were Americans. I would assume it would have been U.S. dollars. So, being that this one is generally on online shops, say $50, $60 higher than that one, I would assume it would be that, if not slightly more.
Got it. Fair enough.
All right. Yeah, so anyway, I'm an 88 today. Again, I've always been 88, 89. They're pretty much interchangeable. It's a good whiskey. It has a few flaws. Overpriced for sure.
Yeah.
You can get much better whiskeys than this for what you're going to pay for it. Much, much better whiskeys.
That's unfortunately the reality of distillery-only releases.
Yeah.
Pay a premium.
Premium, there's only 2,004 bottles, so there's a reason why it's expensive. But if you're a Lagavulin fan, it's worth jumping into for sure. You can still get them in a few places, unlike some of the other 20-plus-year-old Lagavulins, which is rare.
Yeah.
So if you want an older Lagavulin, still available, decent whiskey, just don't expect to be blown away.
Yeah, this is probably your best option if you're buying old Lagavulin,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to spend over four figures.
Yeah,
I don't think
sure.
I don't think there's any other options really that are as good as this.
Yeah, the 21, the 22 we've mentioned to death on this video, and then also the 20 from Facial from 2020, the 20-year-old.
I think this is the best of those three.
I agree.
So
I agree, for sure. All right, those are our thoughts on the whiskey. Let's know if you're one of the lucky people to try one of the just over 2,000 bottles of this Lagavulin 22. Love to know your thoughts in the comment section. And as always, until next time, Dustin, what do we wish the folks?
happy drinking, guys.
We'll see you next time.